Rosebud. Shalom, shalom, mishpocha, and welcome to another edition of Ray Bash's Ramblings. You got to see a little bit of my messy house here. I don't know if the microphone picked up my words when I did the close-up, but if you could lip read, and if you did hear what the mic picked up, you would have heard Rosebud. Now, does that ring any bells with anybody? There's a very famous movie that was put out by Orson Welles called Citizen Kane, and on there's several lists of the 100 greatest movies of all times, and Citizen Kane is either number 1 or it's in the top 10. Sometimes it even surpasses Gone with the Wind. But it was about a man who had it all. Even from his youth, he had money, he had wealth. When he grew up, he had power, he had influence, he had authority. He had anything that anybody could ever ask for. He even built a pleasure dome that he called Xanadu, and it was equivalent to Michael Jackson's Wonderland. It had its own zoo, had its own golf course. He lived in a palace. There was nothing that this man didn't have. He had rooms and rooms full of statues and pictures, famous pictures and paintings, and he had it all. But on his deathbed, all he had was a snow globe, and it rolled out of his hand and crashed, and he said Rosebud. Well, he said Rosebud, then the snow globe fell out of his hand and crashed. And so the whole movie is about these reporters investigating this very influential rich man, what his last words were and what they meant. It was Rosebud. What the heck was Rosebud? And at the end of the movie, nobody could figure it out. And we learn that he was referring to a sled, a simple snow sled that he had as a child, and it was called Rosebud. That's what was on his mind when he took his last breath. And so what does that say to us? It brings to mind the passage in the Brit Chadasha, the New Testament, and in the Besorah, the Gospels, the words of Yeshua, where he said, "What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul?" His mother didn't want him, and his father wanted to keep him, but his mother didn't want him. She signed him away and gave him to this rich man to be his ward. And young Charles Foster Kane resented this, and he did everything that this man did not like. And when he grew up and came into all this money and he was an adult, he still did everything that this man didn't like. He was a newspaper icon, tycoon, I mean. He ran the newspaper. He ran for political office. He had his scandals, and, he, had a couple wives and, divorced them and lost them and things like that. But the last thing that was on his mind was that sled. And it's symbolic of how, this man had it all, but riches didn't mean anything to him. He had the whole world by the toe, but he lost his soul in the process, because all he wanted was to go back to his childhood, to have a real childhood. All he wanted was one more ride on that sled that he loved to play with in the snow that was so dear to him. It represented childhood. It represented innocence. It represented purity. It represented everything that he's lost and could never gain or get back. He tried everything to make him happy. Wealth, power, money. He had wives, but he would only give wives the things that he thought they wanted, not things that they really wanted. And everybody was unhappy because the world revolved around Charles Foster Kane. And none of this made him happy. Now, what's my Rosebud? My Rosebud is this Batman clock, this plastic Batman clock with a face on it, and on one side was Batman and Robin running through the street with the Batmobile behind him. And I thought to myself, I need to go on eBay and see if I can't find that clock. That's kind of the last great symbol of my youth, and that to me represents childhood and childlike faith, where I believed that anything is possible, that I could do anything. That was my time of innocence. So it's interesting how physical, inanimate objects can embody something so complex yet so simple as innocence and childhood and purity. And when he had Rosebud, when Charles Foster Kane had Rosebud, he had everything. He was happy then. So in this life, in this world, you can have it all, but if you don't have that childlike faith, if you don't have that childhood innocence, if you don't have what only Yeshua could restore, what only Yeshua could give, what only following the Torah can bring about, then you absolutely have nothing. You have nothing. It's not worth anything. You've heard the saying, you can never go back home, because home is never the same once you leave, and that's true. And we may not be able to erase things in our lives that has destroyed our innocence, but we can, through the Torah and through Yeshua HaMashiach, come back to that place of childlike faith and childhood innocence. And he can give you your rosebud. He can give you that which you've lost and you feel like you can never gain or never get back. He can do that for you. Only Yeshua HaMashiach can do that. And only a life by walking in the footsteps of Yeshua HaMashiach can do that and can restore you and can make you whole. And even today as an adult, everything I've told you, you know. I know you know it. You've heard it 100 times, but yet we are so stubborn and so stiff-necked and so stupid in our lives that we keep pursuing things thinking that they're going to make us happy. Whether it's sex, drugs, rock and roll, whether it's our career, and we avoid our family and we cause family strife and problems because we want what we want what we think will make us happy, but yet down deep inside we know it doesn't. And yet if we lose our family, that's part of losing Rosebud. If we lose our family, that's part of losing Yeshua, because he gave those things to us. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his own soul? So I implore you and I beg you, and I'm preaching to the choir, and as I'm looking into this camera and going to be watching this video after I'm finished with it, I'm going to be looking into my own eyes, because I'm stepping on my own toes. I'm preaching to myself, because so many times I get off focus. So many times I lose the sight and the focus and the meaning of what's truly real and what's truly important, because I'm there pursuing my Xanadu, trying to get what I can never have. And you know what? My only true happiness is in Torah. My only true happiness is in Yahweh. My only true happiness is in Yeshua. My only true happiness is walking in the footsteps of Yeshua HaMashiach, by walking and following the Torah, by living and performing Yahweh's will for my life. And that's the only thing that makes me happy. I don't want to gain the whole world. I don't want to lose my soul. I want everything that Yahweh has for me. I want my rosebud, and I know he can give it to me, and he can give it to you too. So, shalom and shavua tov mishpocha.